Greetings everyone. Myself Dr. Sharon Abraham from the Department of Prosthodontics in Crown and Bridge from Sri Siddhartha Dental College, Tumkur. Today my topic of presentation will be prosthetic polymers and resins. Now I'll be covering under the following contents of introduction, types of denture bases and resins, stages of heat cure, properties, and then the strength of each resins. So giving you a brief introduction about acrylic resins. So acrylic resins have been in use since the 1940s. So even today with the advancements of newer materials, we are still sticking on to the acrylic resins, the conventional material, because of various reasons. Now what are those reasons? I'll be discussing in the following slides. So the chemical name of acrylic resin is polymethylmethacrylate. It is basically a colorless material. You can tint the material to any color that you want, to any translucency that you require, and to any shade that you require. Now its color, its optical properties, and then the physical properties of this material has found to be normal under any kind of intraoral condition. That's why it's found to be the most biocompatible material among all the dental materials used in prosthesis, in the fabrication of any prosthesis. Now, among all the types of resins that we use, whether it is heat cure or whether it is cold cure or light cure, the most commonly used material is heat cure resins. Now, heat cured materials, they are used in the fabrication of nearly all the denture bases, whether it is removable partial dentures or whether it is complete dentures. It is most commonly used fabrication of any type of dentures, especially when it comes to a permanent use. So for heat cure resins, like the name suggests, it requires a external energy for its polymerization or curing. So the external energy here is in the term of a thermal energy. And the thermal energy is supplied either by using a water bath or by using a microwave. Moving on to the composition of acrylic resins. Like I've already mentioned, it basically consists of methyl methacrylate. In the powder, there is a powder and liquid in acrylic resins. So the powder basically consists of a fraction of pre-polymerized methyl methacrylate. Then it consists of benzoyl peroxide, which is an initiator. Initiator means which initiates the setting reaction. And the liquid consists of mainly non-polymerized acrylic resin, and it also consists of hydroquinone, which is a inhibitor. Now the main function of inhibitor is when the material is stored, it should not get polymerized or cured by itself. So inhibitor basically inhibits the self-polymerization or self-curing of the resins. Now one of the main reasons why the fraction of the material is pre-polymerized in the powders, the researchers have found that when the powder and the liquid was mixed together, volume of material was completely shrunken. So there was a 21% volumetric shrinkage that was seen when the powder and liquid was mixed together. So in order to overcome this volumetric shrinkage, they decided to pre-polymerize a fraction of the powder beads. Now the powder is also called as the polymer and the liquid is also called as the monomer. These are the synonyms. So this is a picture of the powder liquid that is available in the market. Now this is a chemical formula of polymethyl methacrylate. The first one is a methyl methacrylate structure. The second one is a glycol dimethacrylate. Now glycol dimethacrylate is a cross-linking agent. It is added in a volume of 1 to 2% in the liquid. Now the main function of this glycol dimethacrylate, like the name suggests, it cross-links the polymer beads that is formed. So when the methyl methacrylate is initiated with the help of benzoyl peroxide, you can see numerous polymer chains formed, and these polymer chains are interlinked together or binded together with the help of this glycol dimethacrylate. Now they are structurally similar to that of methyl methacrylate. Now storage, manufacturers of heat activated resin systems, generally they recommend a particular temperature and time limit to store the material. If you don't follow the temperature and time limit given in the manual, then there will be changes in the physical and chemical properties of the material. Now polymer to monomer ratio. Proper polymer to monomer ratio is of considerable importance in the fabrication of any well-fitting denture. So whether you fabricate a removable or a complete denture, for it to come out successfully or to get fabricated successfully, a proper polymer to monomer ratio is very important. So commercial products, they generally use the polymer to monomer ratio of 3:1 by volume. So this I've already mentioned why a fraction of the material was pre-polymerized. And when the powder and the liquid components are mixed in proper proportions, you will get a dough-like consistency, and that is the right consistency at which you have to pack the material into the flask. Now, there are different stages when you mix a powder and liquid. You have a sandy stage, you have a stringy stage, you have a dough-like stage, then you have a rubbery stage. Now, what is a sandy stage? In sandy stage, there is little or no interaction between the powder and liquid when they are mixed together. So, the consistency of the material will be more of coarse or grainy in nature. Then later comes the stringy stage. In stringy stage, the monomer or the liquid attacks the polymer beads. So some amount of powder beads has been wetted by the monomer. So in this stage, the consistency will be more of a stringy in nature. That is, when you take the material and pull your fingers apart with the material in between, you can see strings appearing between your fingers. That's why it's called as the stringy stage. Then comes the dough-like stage. Now, dough-like stage is the most important stage in the fabrication of complete dentures and when you're packing the heat-cured resins. In dough-like stage, the polymer beads is completely wetted by the monomer and the consistency will be like a dough. It's more pliable in nature. Why this stage is ideal is because during this stage, when you pack it in the flask or into the mold, it will adapt to the shape of the mold, unlike any other stage. So, dough-like stage is the ideal stage to pack the resin into the flask. Now, following this stage comes a rubbery stage. Like the name suggests, it's rubber in nature. Once you stretch, it rebounds. So, when you adapt it into the mold, it does not confine to the shape of the mold. So, this stage is totally unlikely to be packed for the fabrication of any kind of dentures. Next, coming on to the dough forming time. Now, what do you mean by dough forming time? The time required for the resin mixture to reach a dough-like consistency is termed as the dough forming time. So, clinically, the time required to reach the dough-like consistency is less than 10 minutes. Now, what is working time? Working time is defined as the time of the denture-based material that remains in the dough-like stage. Once you reach the dough-like consistency, till what time it remains in that consistency, that is called as a working time. So, here also, as per clinical use, it is found that a material remains in the dough-like stage for at least 5 minutes. Next, moving on to chemically activated denture-based resins. Till now, we spoke about the heat cure resins. Next is chemically activated resins. Now, here chemically activated resins, they are also called as autopolymerizing resins, self-cure resins. Why they are called? Because they autopolymerize themselves. Unlike the light cure or heat cure, it does not require an external source of energy for its curing or for its polymerization. It cures by itself. It's self-curing. That's why it's called as a self-cure resins. Now, how does it cure? It consists of certain chemical activator which will initiate the curing. Now, what is the composition of chemically cured resins? What are the chemical activators here that I've mentioned before? The chemical activator here is basically a tertiary amine called as dimethyl paratoluidine. Now, what does this tertiary amine do here? Now, what happens upon mixing the powder and the liquid? Now, your tertiary amine will decompose the benzyl peroxide completely. Now, what was benzyl peroxide? It was an initiator. So, it will decompose the benzyl peroxide completely. When it gets decomposed, what happens? Free radicals will be produced. Now, these free radicals will initiate the polymerization process in cold cure resins or chemically activated resins. Now, as a general rule, the degree of polymerization achieved using chemically activated resin is not as complete as that achieved in a heat cure resins. In heat cure resin, the polymerization is achieved by placing it in a water bath or a microwave. So, the polymerization or the curing is complete. But when compared to that, the chemically cured resin, the polymerization process is not as complete as that of the heat cured resin. That's one slight disadvantage we see with the chemically cured resins. And because of this advantage, it is not most commonly used for a permanent purposes. It's used only for the fabrication of any kind of temporary processes. Now, what happens if the polymerization is incomplete? Because as a result of polymerization being incomplete, there will be some unreacted monomer present within the material. Now, what happens if there are unreacted monomer? One is it makes the material plastic. Plastic means it makes the material little flexible. So, ideally, your denture materials should always be rigid in nature. It should not be flexible. Now, because of the presence of this unreacted monomer, because the polymerization was not complete, it results in making the material a little plastic in nature, which is not ideal to be used in the oral cavity. The second problem with the residual monomer is that it will act as a tissue irritant. It will cause allergic reactions to the soft tissues, and thereby it is not a good biocompatible material. And that is another reason why it is not used for prolonged use in the oral cavity, only for a short period of time, because the biocompatibility is less when compared to that of the heat cured resins. Now, from a physical standpoint, chemically activated resin, the shrinkage is much lesser than that of the heat cure. That is one added advantage. If the polymerization is not complete, but the shrinkage seen with the chemically activated resin is much lesser when compared to the heat activated resin. Now, this will impart a greater dimensional accuracy. Now, another disadvantage with chemically cured resins when compared that of heat cured is that the color stability is not as great as the heat cured resins. Now, heat cured resin has got a good color stability, but in chemically cured, the color stability is not that great because of the presence of the tertiary amine. Now, this tertiary amine is more susceptible to oxidation when it is exposed to the environment. Now, this oxidation will result in color changes in the material post fabrication. Now, to overcome this color changes, they introduce some stabilizing agent into the chemically activated resins. Moving on to light activated resins. Light activated resins, just like your heat activated, requires a thermal external source of energy for its polymerization or curing, unlike your chemically activated. So here the external source of energy, like the name suggests, is a light. Most commonly used light is visible light or the UV light at the range of 300 to 400 nanometer. Now, as might be expected, denture-based fabrication using a light activated resin significantly is different from that of the heat cure or a chemically activated resin. Now, the most recent generation of light activated resins are: one is a base forming resin, like the name suggests, it is used to form the denture base. Then is a tooth setting resin, like the name suggests, it is a resin that is placed to attach your acrylic teeth or your porcelain teeth. Then you have the contouring resin. Contouring resin is to finally shape or contour the denture bases. So each one you place your denture base resin, place it into the light curing chamber, cure it, take it out, and then you place the next tooth forming resin. So each step is done by placing it into the light curing chamber. Now, what are the physical properties of denture based resin or basic characteristics? One is polymerization shrinkage, which we have discussed multiple times, porosity, water absorption, solubility, and processing stresses are some of the characteristics of denture based resins. First one is polymerization shrinkage. I have already told, when the powder and liquid was mixed together, they evidence some amount of volumetric shrinkage, which was 21%. Along with volumetric shrinkage, there was also an evidence of linear shrinkage also. Now, how did they identify that? They marked some reference points before polymerizing the resin, and they checked the distance between these reference points after polymerizing. If there was a reduction in the distance between these reference points, it was concluded that there was a linear shrinkage. Now, along with linear and volumetric shrinkage, thermal shrinkage was also evident most commonly with the heat cure resin when it was polymerized using a water bath or a microwave. Now, thermal shrinkage most commonly occurs like after polymerization. You have to bench cure the flask for at least 30 to 45 minutes and then run it under tap water. If you deflask it immediately after polymerizing, it leads to thermal shrinkage. And most commonly, thermal shrinkage is because of the disparity in contraction between the gypsum mold and the resins. Now, because of all this phenomenon, when compared to heat cure, like I've mentioned before, chemically cured has very negligible shrinkage. Like you can see in the picture, the heat activated resin, you can see there is some amount of shrinkage that is very evident, and whereas when you check the chemically activated or self-cure resin, there is negligible shrinkage post polymerization or post fabrication of the dentures. Now, porosities can affect your aesthetic, hygienic and physical properties of the material. How does it affect the physical property of the material? The material will be more susceptible to fracture if there is porosities. How does it affect the aesthetic properties? Once the polymerization is done and once there is a lot of porosity is evident, the material appears more of opaque in nature. And how does it affect the hygienic properties? Because of porosities, there are chances of the food getting lodged into these microporosities and affects the hygiene of the denture bases. Now, how does it porosity mainly occur? Because of vaporization of the unreacted monomer. So whenever there is an unreacted monomer present after polymerization, and when it gets vaporized, it leads to porosities. So you can see in the picture A, there is absolutely no porosity because the polymerization process was complete. Whereas picture B and C, the subsurface porosities can be seen because of rapid heating. There is a particular temperature for polymerization of heat cured resin. It starts from 74 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius. Now if you go beyond 100, that is a boiling point, then it can lead to small subsurface porosities, just like in the picture B and C. Now, in the picture D, the porosity is mainly because of improper polymer to monomer ratio. The 3:1 ratio was not followed here, so you can see some irregular porosities. Now, in the picture E, the porosity was mainly because of insufficient pressure. Now, once you pack the material, you should maintain some pressure within the flask. If the pressure is not maintained, you can see large irregular porosities like in the picture E. Now, how can you avoid this porosity? The porosity can be avoided first mainly by following the proper powder to liquid ratio, and then there should be homogeneous mix, and make sure you pack it in the dough-like consistency. So all these are the ways to overcome the porosities. Now, water absorption. Polymethyl methacrylates absorbs some amount of water if you place it in a aqueous medium. Now, what happens as a result of this water absorption? It will change its physical and mechanical properties. So, like we can guess, because of water absorption, slight expansion was evident in the material. And the second problem that was found is the water molecules went and got lodged in between the polymer chains. So this water molecules which was in between the polymer chains, it affected the cross-linking of the polymer chains. And this was another reason for the expansion of the material. So it has been estimated that for each 1% increase in weight produced by water absorption, the acrylic resin showed a linear expansion of 0.23%. So although denture-based resins are soluble in variety of aqueous medium, it was found that it was completely insoluble in the oral cavity or in the saliva in the oral cavity. That's why it was found to be the best material to be used in the fabrication of complete denture, as it was insoluble in the saliva or any kind of oral fluids. Moving on to the processing stresses. Now, after polymerization, there will be some internal stresses that will be present in the material. Now, if this internal stresses is being relaxed immediately, it will lead to some lot of dimensional inaccuracies. That is why, like I've mentioned before, you have to always bench cure the material for 30 minutes, then run it under cool tap water, and then you have to deflask it before you remove the complete denture. Otherwise, the internal stresses that is being built within the flask can lead to dimensional inaccuracies. Moving on to crazing. Now, although dimensional changes can occur during relaxation of processing stresses, these changes, they do not cause any clinical difficulties. So in contrast, stress relaxation can produce some small amount of surface flaws. So these surface flaws or cracks that you see is termed as crazing. Now, crazing, it appears hazy or foggy if you're using a transparent material. If you're using a tinted material, then crazing appears as a whitish appearance. You can see the picture, you can see the craze lines here. Now, moving on to the strength. Strength depends upon composition of the material, the processing, and the conditions presented in the oral cavity. So, like I've already mentioned, if the polymerization process is complete, then more stronger the material. Whereas the polymerization is incomplete, then the strength of the material will be questionable. So like I've mentioned again before, the heat cured resin is more stronger than the chemically cured resins because the polymerization is complete in heat cure when compared to the chemically cured or self-cured resins, which this I've already mentioned right now. Moving on to creep. Now, denture base is itself viscoelastic in nature, means there is some amount of flexibility in denture based resins, although it is a rigid material. Now, this viscoelasticity, it will lead to a plastic deformation if the load that is being applied is not removed. Now, the load that you're applying it on the material, if it remains for a prolonged period of time, then it results in a permanent plastic deformation. Now, this permanent plastic deformation is nothing but it is called as the creep. Now, coming to conclusion, prosthetic polymers and resins, they play a vital role in the modern dentistry due to their versatility, due to their aesthetics and ease of manipulation, and more importantly, cost effectiveness. So continuous advancements in material science have significantly improved their physical, their chemical and biological properties, making them indispensable in the use of prosthodontic rehabilitation. Thank you.